I speak on behalf of the Lord Jesus. We are prepared to accept your offer and cross over.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. After a long, drawn-out delay to depart from Seattle to kick this trip off, it was time to enjoy some parks of Virginia with fellow Buzz Bar stumblers. While there were some great coasters to enjoy in these parks, there would be some issues that would come about because of the weather, leading to some further changing of plans, as well as some unexpected experiences. Back when my mom and stepdad moved us to North Carolina in 1999, the first park in the area that I visited was Kings Dominion that Labor Day weekend. The following spring, we made our first visit to Busch Gardens in Williamsburg. With both parks only being about a 3-hour drive away from our home in eastern North Carolina, they were a natural fit to become my new home parks. There were many visits to both places over the years I lived nearby, and it was especially sad for me to see the closures of Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens and Volcano at Kings Dominion, as they were both rides I truly enjoyed. 2011 would be the last year that these were my home parks though, as I made the move to Florida that December, and only made one wintertime visit to Busch Gardens in 2017 with my friends Jeremiah and Nicole. Because of this long absence from both parks, I was really looking forward to both of them and trying to get out some of their newest additions since those previous visits. The morning started early as I went from my hotel in Baltimore to the airport to pick up Ricky, and we made our way down to Richmond, stopping for breakfast at a place that's not available back home in the Seattle area, but had been a staple of my college years. After Nick arrived to the Richmond airport, we made our way to Kings Dominion for the first pre-stumble park. It's a little early for Kings Dominion today, about 10:30 or so. They're testing the rides. Not very many people here today. I think it's going to be a good day for a pre-stumble. What do you think, Ricky?
I'm excited.
Yeah! What do you think, Nick? Good day for a pre-stumble?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah! To get things started, we wanted to take advantage of the weather a bit, so we went over to Intimidator 305 because the top of the lift was in and out of the fog that sat over the area. It was surreal to hardly see anything around us when we reached the top for that first lap, and while it ran slower than it normally does because of the cool weather, it managed to remind me of just how good a ride it can be. A second lap later in the day would reaffirm that, especially as it had warmed up. One of the more notable changes to the park for this season was the revitalization of the Congo area into Jungle Expedition. The fresh paint and new thematic elements really did wonders for the area, and a ride that really benefited from the sprucing up of this land was the mock bobsled coaster previously known as Avalanche, but now called Reptilian. The new coat of paint and added station theming was nice to see for this rare model of coaster, because it seems to indicate they plan to keep it around a while. Unfortunately, this area also kicked me in the childhood a bit because of the notable absence of an old favorite. I miss Volcano! Hopefully the eventual replacement, though, will be a worthy successor. One of the major components of the revamped section of the park was the addition of Tumbili, a smaller variation of the S&S Free Spin that took the place of the old Top Spin ride, the Crypt. While there are those who aren't fans of this model, I personally enjoy them and was looking forward to trying it out. Until we found out that because of maintenance, it was closed for the day. After finding out we'd be short a new credit for this visit, we continued to wander around the park, enjoying a few rides along the way, such as Dominator, Racer 75, and Apple Zapple. One day that credit will happen. It was neat to stroll around Kings Dominion and see some of the tributes to the past before it had been a Paramount park, as the original version of these features came at a time before I ever had a chance to visit the park. If there was one Paramount era leftover I didn't mind seeing changed, it was the old hurler going through an RMC conversion to become Twisted Timbers. I'll be the first to admit to having a thing for RMCs, and this one was no different. Twisted Timbers back there? Phenomenal way to rebound from the sadness of closed coasters and denied credits. And it's such a good ride. The airtime on it is just mwah, chef's kiss. And there's a bit of hang time in there, nice little twisted layout. Definitely a vast improvement over the old hurler. There came a point though, where this day was fitting right in with the previous two. Well, had to have a little bit of a change of plan because of a certain situation that's happened. What's going on?
Well, King's Dominion just announced that they're closing at 3 p.m. for inclement weather.
Tumbili was closed, denied the kiddie coaster, bunch of other rides closed. Yeah, but you know what? Got Twisted Timbers, and it was running good. As the park was on the verge of closing 5 hours early, the crew took a couple more rides on the likes of Intimidator and Dominator, and even a lap on Woodstock Express, before we headed over to Busch Gardens early, hoping to catch a few rides before the weather would strike it too. Like King's Dominion, there were 2 larger coasters I had to ride. When I visited with Jeremiah and Nicole a few years back, I had a chance to try Invader and Verbolten, which I found to be great additions for the park. Tempesto unfortunately was closed for the Christmas Town Festival that year, so I had to wait until this visit, along with the new for 2022 coaster, Pantheon. Unfortunately, I missed out on that first lap because I was right on the edge of being too big for the ride, as the lap bar was down far enough to show green on the screen, but the attendant would give the restraint a good yank and would cause it to flash red, then back to green. So she said I wouldn't be able to ride. I totally understand that it's better to stay on the side of safety. It was just a bit odd because I'd never seen a situation like this before, where the screen would show green but would flash red while being pulled. That being said, the rest of the group rode it and enjoyed it, so I thought I'd come back to try again later. We did go across Fiesta Italia for the ride on Tempesto, so I at least got another coaster off my list to ride. And we followed that up with a lap on Apollo's Chariot. Then came the announcement that rides in the park were being closed for the time being due to the coming storm. So we went to take cover at Festhaus, and boy was that a good call, because it came down heavy. While it was heavy, it didn't seem like it would be that serious. I am in my element. That was until we heard the announcement from the Festhaus stage manager that we needed to take shelter from a possible tornado, so everyone in the building was led to the dressing room of the Festhaus show. Some things you just can't expect. Once the weather died down a bit, our crew took a stroll back over to Pantheon with the hope of some night rides before heading out. They did a few test runs, much to the enjoyment of some coaster fanatics. However, the weather wasn't cooperating between the high winds and even more heavy rain. So we all found ways to entertain ourselves as we waited for that hopeful night ride. It eventually became pretty apparent that it wasn't going to happen though, so Larson, our master negotiator, spoke with the writer.
I speak on behalf of the Lord of Truth. We are prepared to accept your offer and cross over.
We were offered a few ride passes for Pantheon that could be used the next day, so we headed out of the park and over to Brickhouse Tavern, located near the campus of William and Mary. Drinks were enjoyed, pizza was eaten, and songs were sang as it was karaoke night. Our group brought some Dio to the table.
Oh, diver, you've down too long in the midnight sea. Oh, what's becoming of me?
Buzz Bar's tradition, an early 2000s classic.
You are my fire, the one desire, believe when I say I want it that way. Don't wanna hear you say. Tell me why.
The following morning started with a quick pickup as Keegan arrived to the Newport News Airport, and we drove right over to catch up with the rest of the crew at Busch Gardens, finding the weather to be much better for riding this time. The first ride for those of us arriving a bit behind was Alpengeist, which remains a favorite inverted coaster of mine. That was followed up with a lap on Verbolten, which I still find to be a worthy replacement of Big Bad Wolf. And while various groups split off to other areas of the park, some of us spent a lot of time around Pantheon. Attempting to ride on this day was more successful, as I was able to get a few laps on the ride, although I found different seats had an easier time turning the indicator green on the screen than others, so there were a couple of walk of shames sprinkled in between rides. If you're a bigger rider like me, you'll definitely want to keep that in mind. The ride itself is excellent. It may not have the extreme forces like its fellow Intamin counterpart in Orlando, Velocicoaster, but this ride has some great hang time and airtime moments, with the small hill and the launch track being one of the biggest surprises, especially as you roll through it backwards. The air from it is totally unexpected and really stands out on this ride. I don't think it would be hard for someone to justify ranking this coaster high on their list. While there were several coasters missed between here and King's Dominion the day before, there was still a great event to look forward to, with the Buzz Bar's crew thus calling for us to begin the 5-hour drive over to Charlotte. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.